Hello, darlings. This is Becca Victoria. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, RTT, and NTT therapist, practitioner, and coach, and your anxiety and trauma breakthrough therapist. Welcome to Embodied Shift. Jonna and I explore real change where subconscious healing meets higher guidance.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonna. I'm an intuitive coach. My work is about remembering who you are and trusting your inner knowing. Today we're discussing how to ask the hard questions in dating. So, how do we ask the hard questions without making it feel like an interrogation? So, basically, in dating, there's an energy and timing. The questions are not really necessarily hard, but it's really the timing and the energy that you have in those questions. Becca, any experiences on these hard questions and insights?
Well, like you said, it's not about the words really. It's about how you ask them, energy wise. Some people they would, okay, based from my experience, I have this person asked to do Zoom call. It's not very common really to do that. And then while although we had like 2 hours of conversation, but I was noticing that he had a pen and there's like he's crossing, like if when we finished talking about it and he would cross that whatever he was trying to ask me. So I thought that was weird, and it made me feel like it was almost like not even a conversation. It was almost like what are you trying to do, what are you trying to, it was like questions after questions after questions, and there was no breather. There was no like, okay, oh, you asked me this question and then we're gonna talk about this, right? No, none of that. So though we had a lot of things in common, but it didn't work out because I felt like, why do you even have the pen and paper in front of you and crossing those maybe the questions that you had asked me, because this is supposed to be just you and me conversing, getting to know each other, not in a way that I feel like I'm being investigated, right? So, and also when it feels interrogation, it makes other people try to defend themselves. It's like you're on the court, right? Asking when the opposing attorney would ask you lots of questions. It's the same feeling of, oh, you have to defend yourself, right? So again, I think you mentioned this in the beginning, it's the energy, right? Because you could ask questions, but the way you deliver it, you can just like smiling, relax, and say, oh, let's say, which I don't actually ask about salary and all that, but they do open that to me. That's a difference between you're giving that person a safe container to talk about whatever, and that's the energy from you, right? Let's say for me, I'd be like, just very chill, very relaxed. It's just us having a conversation. You don't have to try to defend yourself. If I asked you a question, if they think it's hard, I could notice instantly if they're trying to defend themselves or they feel uncomfortable because how the body language, they're doing lots of things about their hands, their head. It's like, okay, he feels uncomfortable. And then having that, if someone could actually observe that and have that intelligence to like, okay, this person is not feeling comfortable. What can I do? And so me being very intuitive, right? Then I can steer the gear to like, okay, let's make it a little lighter. I would ask different questions about the hobby, about family, or whatever else, right? So again, it's not about the question. It's not about the words. It's the energy. It's how you saying it, right? And not asking question after question after question. So for you, what are your thoughts about
The hard questions. I
the
think
hard question?
timing is critical and really getting to know yourself when you're going out on dates. What by it is the timing is when you first meet someone, you should
Mm,
always have this curiosity. If the questions are coming from fear because I need to protect myself, so the energy of the questions are really hard, like right away, that's half. Right? Like when you just sit down with someone and they ask you the hard questions, like, how much do you make? Are you healthy? Do you have kids? Oh, like not even getting an opportunity to even see if we need to ask those hard questions, right? For me, hard questions are reserved not like when you first sit down and say hello to each other because you want to feel the energy of it. But it's also important, and I understand everybody's busy, everybody have their goals, right? But timing is really important because at the end of the day, when you're gauging something and that this is not the person that you're gonna meet for the next date, you don't even have to get there. You just want to enjoy your time with this person. And for me, time is a very valuable resource. It's not even money, it's the time because money you can always make, the time you can never get back. So when I'm in your presence and when you're in my presence, for me, it's always trying to elevate each other, to get to
Mm.
know, not just get to know each other, but to learn from each other at that moment, to be inspiring to each other at that moment. So I would never leave a table making them feel bad about themselves or making me feel bad about the experience. I think it's important to have a heart when you're dating. I think really an open heart to just be, again, just a really decent human being presenting yourself. Because if you've already committed an hour together or a couple of hours for dinner, because you'll know like if there's a chemistry. If not, then you could just have these conversations where it's both elevating for you, both
Mhm.
inspirational for you, right? And no need for those hard questions. But at the end of the date, if I'm a person, and this is going to be in our master class, like knowing what's really unique about you and having that to be a sure superpower, because I believe a lot of people goes into dating trying knowing that they have homework. They would think, okay, what is going on with the dating world? People are asking these questions. I should be asking these questions too. And sometimes they don't even know if that's important to them really. It's just
Right,
questions
right.
that people ask each other. It's just a norm, right? Like people are so first if like let's say I'm a woman and I'm in my 40s and I for sure know I don't want to go on like several different dates. And so at the end of this date, if there is a chemistry of some sort, then I would openly say I'm actually dating intentionally now, meaning I really want a partner or that's important for me. And so I just want to be honest now and open that if you're not looking for a partnership, I just would want to be friends and just be friends with each other, maybe through like Instagram or whatever, but not going on expecting that you have another date with this person. But it's all coming from a space of like loving yourself, being loving to you, and also being loving to that other person that you're just like letting them know, hey, this is what's important to me. It's
Yeah,
not an energy of this is what I need and I need you to be this. Otherwise, I won't ever see you. It's not, can you see the difference? This is what
yeah,
I'm looking for, and this is what I'm hoping for in this date, and this is what I would want to have in my life. And so it's really that, like, what are you there for?
absolutely. So I guess, a hypothetical question, but I think when for some people they're there because they just want to go out for the sake of going out. They just want to see, oh, how many dates I could have, right? They have like quotas that, okay, this week I'm going to have this much. And then they feeding their ego, for example, for the guys, or maybe even for women. So they would say, okay, I'm going to go out because I want to see if I have it, if I still got it, right? So, and then for some people, they're there really they have that intention of, okay, I'm really looking for a partner or that relationship, right? And then, but anyway, going back to hard question that we have today, I think this is more like giving some insights to anybody really. So I think lead with your own feeling, not putting someone on spotlight, right? Because so for example, the interrogation move is like, so where is this going, right? Not coming from curiosity. Like, okay, I've loved getting to know you and I want to understand. I find myself wanting to understand where your head's at. So that's big difference, isn't it? Because for a lot of people, like, okay, what are you looking for? And it's a very silly question. And I get this a lot. What are you looking for?
Oh,
Yes. yes. And it's like, how do I even answer that? Do I answer like politely or do I answer like,
Always with an open heart, like with a loving answer.
well, here's the thing. When someone asks me that, I would unmatch that person. I would.
And
And
match.
yes, unmatch. Because I think from my perspective anyway, that's a question like it's okay if I say what am I looking for and then I give you the list of the things that I like, what are you gonna do, right? So I think for guys who would ask question, you would ask something like more about like open-ended question that makes it more has substance to it, not just like general question. Like you said, some people they have this list like, oh, these are the questions that you must ask somebody. No, you have a little thought of things, right? Because that's just a very general question. So yes, that's a red. I don't like that question. So I was like, okay, you cannot ask me better question, and I'm just gonna unmatch you, not giving that person a chance, really. Because for me, if you're not giving at least that deep thought, time to like, okay, what could I ask this person or whoever else? I'm sure that person is not asking me specifically, but probably a lot of women. So have that awareness of what do you think this person might think of you if you ask this question, right? Just don't throw any questions just because this is what you need to ask, because this is what someone told you about what to ask the person. So, and again, so when we ask question out of curiosity, it has more that flow of conversation, right? Because you're opening the door, not shining a light in their face. Like you have this spotlight, right? Okay, tell me, tell me, tell me. So it's not a conversation. And it's so boring, really, to have to be in that conversation. So, and also, here's the thing when I try to share something about myself, and I could be very vulnerable, and I try not to just that honesty, that vulnerability. And I noticed that guys just feel so relaxed that they just open up and they would feel they just like, oh, this is cool. I can be vulnerable too. I can be relaxed as well, right? And then without even asking those hard questions, they will just tell you a lot of things about their lives. Job, kids, salary, house, bikes, whatever else, right? They would just share those things that not even asking them. Because again, I'm very interested of other people's story, other people's lives, right? Because if you ask those questions, that's just being really curious about just even just little things about their lives, and they would just open up, and then that conversation it just flow and very enjoyable, really.
So let me ask you this so we can have a further understanding on the question of what are you looking for? What is it that's so triggering now for some women like you? Why is that question a bit triggering? Why is that general question a bit triggering?
Okay, so that's a great question because let's say we're just texting, right? And then you're gonna ask me that question right away. What are you looking for? And not even asking,
How are you?
how are you, or what you've been up to, or what are you most interested in life, right? And out of just it's that because it triggers something. I think it's so and what's the word I'm looking for? It's very, again, it's not coming from, I'm curious about you. What is your life looks like right now, right? What is just this question that makes you, okay, what are the things that you do like doing every day, right? Start with that at least. Have that warmth, right? Not just like what are you looking for? Well,
That's very, I love that you shared that because I didn't even think about it, that specific question. And I think most people, because right now it seems like when people are dating, it's really getting to a goal. There's no more like almost like a lack of romance, like not even trying to have a connection, just trying to get to the goal, right? When people
Exactly.
are saying, what are you looking for? They're really, in a way, trying to, especially with men, trying to see, can I be that person? Because is it so? There's a lot of, if this question is not really coming from you, I would, for all of you guys out there that have asked, what are you looking for? I'm pretty sure there's a certain thing that you guys have thought. I think it's an important question to ask because men are programmed to see what people women would like, and so it makes
Right.
them happy,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so they could be in that conversation, they could be
Hmm.
able to date them, so
Hmm.
they want to be able to please that person right away. If I'm am I meeting am I checking the boxes basically,
Exactly.
because if I'm
Exactly.
not checking the boxes, maybe it's not worth pursuing, or
Yes.
I would know how to check the boxes.
Exactly.
And that question, it in itself lacks authenticity.
Yeah.
That's like you're not even trying to have a presence in you as a
Hmm.
person, right? Because right away, if your first question is, what are you looking for? So you're taking the magic out of it.
Oh my gosh, you nailed that, really. Code. It's a code question. It's not a hard question, but it's a
It's
code.
cold. So that's different. Hard questions are more, are we gonna fit in each other's life? Like
Mm.
if I have three kids and I'm here all the way in Phoenix and by that dogs, I have to. But what I'm saying is,
Right.
if hypothetically, if I'm gonna be dating and I'm said I met this amazing guy and we met in a seminar together or in an airplane or whatever it is, or he was in town
Mm.
and he doesn't really leave, like he maybe lives in Colorado or in Vegas or whatever the case may be. Like those are the hard questions. Like, is it worth pursuing this or can we just be friends? Because I have three kids. I'm never gonna leave them because their dad is here. And then like you have kids too. So how can we make this work? And so now, and I'm not saying that's not gonna work. I think with some people, like in their life, I think that works the best. Why? Because they can share that happiness with someone that there's no like huge like commitment. They could be themselves, they can meet each other. So that's actually would work because now you're not putting another person in your life who's just gonna take a little bit more room that you're not ready for, because now
Yeah.
you're juggling with three kids, you're juggling with your career, and then you're bringing another person in and then you're not ready yet, right? And so for some people that is fantastic. We'll see each
Mhm.
other like maybe twice a month or once a month, and then we can spend 3 days together and just have the most fun ever. And then we go back to our families energized. Not like a big commitment of who's paying the insurance or who's like another responsibilities that we're piling on with each other, right?
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
having someone like be there with you, rescue you all the time, but you're living your life separately, but you're sharing something amazing with each other like every month that just helps you grow and become more you and feel more love, right? So for some people that would work, but
Yeah.
people are not having that honest conversation. They're just so set on, if you're sure of what you want, that this is not going to work, then it's not going to work. But sometimes maybe those things that are you're saying no to, that's why you still haven't found the right relationship, because you're not in the energy of creating that space. Because you're still thinking about conventional things on how things should work.
Right.
But you're missing out. Maybe eventually you have this connection with this guy and you have this long distance relationship, but that doesn't feel so attached, or so there's no paperwork. I'm saying there's no legalities or whatnot, but you're able to enjoy that time with each other. And maybe there's a time in your life where that's over because someone else is coming in, and now you're in a space of wanting to be more serious because now your kids have grown, like
Yeah.
you're able to move to a different state. So things can change. Like we're always forced to, like dating and life and any relationship, you cannot expect for things to turn out exactly how you want them.
Yes, it's all about where you at in your life, really, right? The example that you've mentioned about having kids or in different states, right? For me, I'm very open to, yes, I do have children here, but then also at the same time, if let's say if I met that someone, I'll make it work.
Oh,
I will make it work because eventually, our kids are they're gonna do their own thing. They're gonna have their own lives. And let's say if I met someone and I felt that connection, I felt that deep connection that's very important to me, right? I will pursue that relationship. And someone asked me actually, someone mentioned this to me. It's like, oh, having blended family is hard. And I told this person, we might be hard, but just think about it this way, right? I have kids, and this person, he also got kids, right? So yes, they're strangers to each other, but then isn't it, we're giving them a chance to how is it to deal with other people, and because that they're going to carry that when they get out of the world and on their own at work, maybe at university, right? You're going to carry that. I'm going to deal with strangers, right? And that's a that and also you can guide them as well. You're not not letting them figure things out by themselves. But I think it's an opportunity for them to really be like the adulting period of their lives, right? In an early age, let's say if you have a 10-year-old, 13-year-old, 15, whatever, right? That's teaching them how to be with other people, really, right? And how to deal with other people. So where I'm going with this. So I think I mentioned this because I know that there's a lot of people out there who probably have the same situation, that they've met someone but they're out of the state, they have long distance relationship. It could work. It's all about the step that you're gonna take, because here's the thing. Some people would say, you're lucky. But the luck is being lucky is not just because something fell in your lap and boom, you have great partner, you have a great family or a great job, but because you've taken a step towards, if you want that relationship. You cannot just stay. You cannot just say and just wait for it. It's like, oh, well, he's too far, she's too far. You just never know what might come out of that, right? Come out of that, right? And if it didn't work, if it doesn't work, that's okay too. At least you did something. And you're not going to go back and say, shoot, I wish I did something, right?
And I think with what you've shared is the question of a hard question is what commitment really means to you. Like, if you find someone amazing, are you wanting to do what seems to be, again, I'm going to say what seems to be hard for people, because we're just really programmed that long-term relationships are difficult and they never work. So again, that's the energy again of the story that we have created, right? So how committed, when you find like the love of your life, your soulmate, how committed are you to be there and to make it work? That's a hard question that needs to be asked as you're progressing in the relationship. Because and there's nothing wrong if you say you can't commit to that because it's too much. Sure, it means that you're changing your life, maybe moving like different states, different countries, navigating the kids, but everything is really perception, right? Everything is stories that you tell yourself. When I was, even now, like I was never a person who would have thought like blended families are hard or difficult. Like before, like I would always joke around that I wish my mom and dad have divorced. Right? It's because if I have two dads and I have two moms, like
Okay.
it's more like I'm getting more love. I'm getting more like, because it's really just perception of the story.
Oh,
Because I could
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
like, if when kids are going through divorce, and I would think about what if my parents would go through divorce? What would that like for me? And for me, it was like I'm open to it because I never thought about me going back and forth with my mom or dad, or I'm just gonna stay with my mom. But I was actually thinking, okay, and I was like, so what is this other dad would be like? How, like, where this other mom would be? Like, it's almost like another resource for me to tap in. And
Yeah.
so when I really love, because relationships are tough. And in a way, if you're not in a relationship and you were brave enough to really find your freedom, to be happy and to be with someone else. I think it's beautiful to have your kids be together and love each other, because that's another sibling you can love, you can care for, you can share stuff with.
Exactly.
And you can create all those wonderful stories with them. Right. So it's really the way that you wanna create your story. Again, in anything else in life, you ask yourself, how do I think I want to create my dating story?
That's a good question to ponder upon. And so I think just to add to what you've said, I think rewriting a story is one of the ways that you can uplift your life, that you can really experience life, right? There's a lot of things that are scary. I get that. But the reality is, if you explore things, I know we have fears, we all do, but are you going to let that fear for you to be stuck in one place, to be stuck or to be alone, or to be alone for the rest of your life? Or you're willing to take a chance? You're willing, or are you willing to take risk, right? Because that's all it is, really. If we're just gonna stay in that comfortable place, bubble that we're in, what's the point of leaving? What's the point of being on this earth, right? So I think just be open enough to really to have that conversation with yourself, right? Maybe ask yourself all these hard questions. Like you said, what you can commit with, right? What are the things that you can and cannot do? But then at the same time, you ask yourself, if I do this, what might happen? If I don't do this, what might happen, right? Because if you're asking yourself these questions, and then when the decision comes, when you decide on things, it's gonna be easier to whatever it is that you want to do, right?
So let's circle back on the hard questions. And I'm going to ask you, this is going to be fun. And I ask a few hard questions and then tell
Okay.
me how you feel about them as someone who's been right now dating. Are you dating for fun, connection, or commitment? How do you feel about that question?
Commitment.
And also for
How
fun.
do I feel?
Is
Sorry,
that,
do
is
I
that,
feel
is that a
about the
good
question?
question? Is that a
Oh,
good
that's good.
question to ask?
Okay, repeat it again. So
Okay.
commitment.
Are you dating for fun, connection, or commitment?
Okay, actually,
It's a good
all
question.
of them,
Uh-huh.
all of the above. Fun, because you have to have fun when you're dating. Otherwise, it could feel like it's a job, right? Connection, oh,
Important.
huge. It's huge for me. Connection, and then commitment. When you have that connection, when you're having fun, then the commitment comes easily, right?
So the hard question is, so that like the commitment question, I would say, like, are you dating for commitment?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's a good question, right? For people to be asking.
That is a good question.
Because
That is a good
so,
question.
so they
Yeah.
would know what their intentions are. And the same thing with, what does commitment mean to you, right?
What does commitment mean to you? Great question.
Actually, that's one of the questions where I wouldn't mind. Like, if I'm a guy or a girl and I haven't really thought of that, just be honest, let me get back with you instead of just trying to create an answer. Because if that's a hard, like, if that's a hard question, you really need to process that. Unless you've done a lot of work, like you really know what you're looking for and just what you need and what, because it's not just about what you're looking for, like, what can you offer? I think that's a really good question to ask yourself, is what can I offer in this dating thing, right?
So let's play before you continue with the hard questions. Let's do a role play here.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you,
Okay.
did you say what does commitment look like for you?
Commitment right now for me, and I would say right now because this is my present, and commitment is really showing up for the person. For me, it's you knowing that I'm there to hold space, to show love. That's commitment for me. To a permission to be yourself. That's commitment for me. And because I don't ever want to be in a place where, because this is for me, it's in a work, it's different. Because my commitment for me, when I know the commitments that I want to commit to the other person, right? But that it doesn't necessarily mean that I would get that from that person. For me, really, commitment is being there, making sure that you're seen when you're with me, because it's important to be around, not And I guess I just do this. It's just in our nature to, even when you're sitting with a stranger, right? That you're seeing them. I think it's just a part of me that's always been, because I remember at my core, because I'm all about this love. So commitment for me is being a complete person myself, being happy on my own and not trying to find my happiness in you. And commitment for me is I'm going to be there for you. And I'm going to be there for myself first and for you.
Love it.
So that's my commitment to my fur babies, to my dogs. I've always committed myself to, regardless how busy I am, they come first. And I would show up every single day, even if it means I've only slept for like 3 hours. And that is commitment for me, is to be able to consistently show up and show you that I do love you and I care and I'm here for you and you're important.
Beautiful.
And what is commitment for you? Now that you
I
made me
thought we were gonna skip this. So okay, so it's rather tricky because I'm never mind.
okay, so let's continue on the
But
hard part.
I will answer that. I will answer that. If we have more time later, I will. But I think let's try to see what you have about those hard questions.
How do you handle conflict?
Okay. That is a very good question because a lot of people does not know or they cannot process, like if there's conflict and they shut down, they leave, right? So that's a good question.
Because there's a lot of emotional intelligence that comes to handling conflicts. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you communicate when you're upset?
Ooh, I like that question. It's very relevant because it's not only for like a partner, right? It could be with your kids, with friends, right? So I like that question.
That's a really good one. What did your last relationship teach you?
Okay, I think I've heard this question with one of
Good
guys.
questions.
This, and it's a good question, really.
I think
I
it's
like
a
that.
really good question, because when someone asks you that and you're able to articulate, and you would know, like, if it's still coming from a painful space or if it's something like an energy that you've learned from. So it's nice to know, because that is still telling your story, answering that question.
Just to add to that, it wasn't exactly the question that you just mentioned, but one of the person asked me about what happened with that person, with that relationship. And sometimes, oh, actually, sorry.
That's a different question.
It's a different
Yeah.
question. It's a different question. But then it felt like for me, when you said that question, it felt like, well, actually, it's been so long and I moved on that I cannot tell him a lot more about it because it's not in I cannot remember so much really. The feeling is not there anymore. The feeling of whatever I felt then.
You
Right?
don't want to open that.
No, because really, there's nothing more to talk about, really. Because it's not because I'm trying to not to answer the question. It's just it doesn't matter to me anymore.
I can see that, because that question has a bit of a negative energy on it, because it's the past that hasn't been, that's why it ended. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but it has ended. And so when you ask a question like that, it's more of like it's not sitting right, because it's almost like trying to see what happened. Like, are you asking for, like, is it my fault?
Right.
Like, it's not because it's a bad question, it's the energy in itself is not a good question. But when you ask, what did your last relationship teach you? Because that's important.
Yeah.
Because if you
That is,
haven't
yeah.
learned anything in
Yes.
that past relationship, then, like, have you grown as a human being? Are you
Right?
wanting to, because relationship, guys, we have to be honest. If a relationship breaks, it's not really right or wrong. It's just people have grown, outgrown each other. But there's no one who's really at fault.
No,
So
even though someone did this, someone did that, really it's sometimes it just doesn't work. You're not meant to be together for the rest of your life,
because
and that's
people do change.
okay. You're right.
Because people do change. That's why when I would
Yeah.
say this is what commitment means to me right now, because we're always evolving, we're always being better, we're always transforming. And if you're in a relationship and you're growing and he's not growing, or vice versa, and there's really nothing in there and it's really dead,
exactly.
Do you want to keep going with that relationship that's been dead for a long time, right?
That's beautiful. The way you put that is really it landed, and I hope it landed to
Yeah.
everyone who's watching.
Because the questions, there's no bad, like the questions can be bad because you can see the energy of what the question is, the way that they're being asked. If you're
Right, yeah.
focusing more on what really transpired in the past, that really heavy and not welcoming, because that
That okay.
like
I love that you said it that way because it's actually a hard question for me anyway. It's a hard question for me to answer because it's like, okay, oh, how I'm going to answer this without being sarcastic. It's like, oh, I cannot just say, oh, it's in the past, whatever. But I think the way people they should reframe the question in such a way that what do I really need to know? Like I said, for a lot of people, they want to know, oh, was it your fault or was it his fault? Does it matter? What matter is what did you get out of that relationship?
because sometimes that question too, if you're looking at it in a space of love, that question is also being asked not just because they're judging you, because sometimes it's being asked because they want to share this with you, because if they have been in a past relationship, like, and they think that they were hurt, like they were cheated on, and if they feel like you're being cheated on too, then you have a common ground. But
Yeah.
that's still like a negative energy, because you don't really
Yeah.
want to start your relationships by like
Com-
looking back at your past.
yeah.
That's going to be the same story. You don't want that attraction. So, and then if you're being asked those questions, women or men, find it in your heart to tell them honestly, that is a hard question for me to answer, but I can tell you what I've learned from that relationship. So you could always, if they're not able to rephrase it for you, you're able to just rephrase it for them. So it still becomes an interaction of where you're learning from each other instead of just being annoyed with each other,
Right.
or
Yeah.
feeling uncomfortable. Because
Yeah.
whoever has a more emotional intelligence should
Mm.
actually turn the gear to make this a better conversation, because you always want to learn from someone, and you
Yeah.
always want to share this gift from for someone to learn from you and to have a good experience with you.
Right.
And another question, a hard one, is how do you relate to money? That's
How do I really? Oh.
a better of saying like how much money do you make, instead of saying how much money do you make or what's your relationship with money. How do you relate to money? So it's a better question about money, right? This is not like in your face.
Okay, that's a question that I never asked before and never asked someone before. So that might be something I could ask, but
But
firstly, I
just try
have
it.
to.
Just try how that feels like, because I think it has like money is an energy, and it doesn't mean everybody shouldn't think that my relationship with money, everybody's relationship with money is different, but we should always come from a space of abundance. You don't have to have like millions of millions, or if you're not there yet, or if you're in debt, you're creating something, right? So that would take you out of that. Be honest and where you are at the moment, because if this questions comes, I think people would really appreciate just honesty instead of trying to pretend where you are in your relationship or with money. And then a really good one I would say is this other question is, what life are you building?
I really like that. What life? That is really good. And you can extract a lot of values, a lot of beliefs, a lot of patterns, even maybe, right? How they're gonna answer that question. So I like that.
That's very insightful, because you'll know, because if it's coming from that space, again, it's not an interrogation. What life are you building? Like, it really shows them like an opportunity to show them what they want in life, what they're creating. And then,
Yeah.
are you emotionally available for a relationship?
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Oh, because I've met a lot of people who's emotionally unavailable. So that's why I'm laughing. And I'm
And
sorry, I didn't mean to laugh
no,
that
no,
way,
no,
but
that's actually funny. We don't always have to be very serious about things. And I love that you laughed about things, because we should laugh about life more.
so okay, this is a great question because so okay, let's say if I ask that question to somebody, they're trying to impress me or something. They try to give everything like I'm this, I'm that. And I asked that question, and then but I'm seeing differently, right? So that could be a really good thing to ask, because if you're telling me you're emotionally available and I'm not seeing that, I'm not feeling that, then I can easily, in the very early stage of the relationship, I could just say, okay, I need to think about this and get back to this person and
Maybe the better
just
question would be then, what does it mean to be for you to be emotionally available? How does that look like? Because sometimes I guess emotional availability is different for everybody.
oh yes,
You know,
absolutely.
guys, women, it's person to person, even women to women, it's different, that emotional availability that we think that we need or we want to have. So that's, and also working. So it's really important to work on emotional intelligence.
Oh, please, guys, work on your emotional intelligence.
Everybody, like,
Everybody, really, please. This is going to be a life changer for all of us, really, to be emotionally intelligent, just being there, being present, being able to see that, okay, she or he is uncomfortable, or these things trigger her or trigger him, right?
and we're gonna,
And
oh, go ahead. Oh, go, sorry.
I lost my
Sorry.
train of thought. So no, go ahead.
So I was gonna say that emotional intelligence, once we do our master class, is also gonna be a part of that, because sometimes
Oh,
that is really, there's a disconnect sometimes on what women think of emotional intelligence would be, and we could bridge the gap. And so if there's questions on how that is and why that is important, we're gonna be addressing that. So we'll get you
I
guys
agree.
some help on that. And then, what does emotional safety mean to you?
Oh, we okay.
A good question.
We've covered this. We covered
Yeah.
this from our last conversation,
So that's
right?
also a good question to ask, right?
Oh, from both ends, really, men, women. Very important question.
So those are the hard questions.
Yay, no, those are great. Those are great questions, really. So, and the question that it does sound hard, but if you think, if you look within, you can find those answers easily, really. And again, when someone asks you these hard questions, just go with your feeling, right? And so today here's what I want you to carry with you guys, all of our audience. So the goal of a hard question was never to extract information, really, right? It's to create enough safety that the truth can come out on its own, right? So, because when someone feels safe with you, and I mentioned this earlier, you barely have to ask, they will just tell you, right? So, the interrogation is just what we reach for when we don't trust that safety, right? And so, just soften the room, make it fun, make it a conversation. Like, you're very curious about this person. You want to learn more about this person, and you will see that that honesty, what honesty does when someone feels safe with your present, with your energy. Right?
And I would say be aware. When you're dating, it's important to be aware of, if you're asking questions because you're being fearful, you're still trying to heal a wound. Be aware of why those questions are just really sounding so hard, and why do they have to happen in a timing where it's not like going, like if you just sit down with someone and you have this urge to just say, are you dating for commitment? Like if that, like after high and low, if that's gonna be a first question in your mind and that's something that you can't wait to ask, for whatever the reason is, if you cannot find the right energy and the right timing to ask that question in a very, just a very, I wouldn't even say loving way, but in a way that is just asking out of curiosity, then you'll know and you'll be aware that you're coming from a space of fear. And when you're coming in that space, it's even harder to attract, based on energy, to attract that person to you, because then you're always going to come across someone who's also exhibiting or mirroring that fear,
Mm,
right? So just be really mindful, and then when you have that awareness, that's actually a superpower. So then you can go on your next date and then you practice this new version of you who's coming from a place of just curiosity, coming from a place of just wanting to have some adventure with
Mm,
someone for dinner. And then you'll find yourself not wanting, you might even forget that question because
right?
you're having so much fun. And then you'll
Yeah,
get to ask that at the end of the date or the next date because now you're giving an opportunity for someone to actually get to know them, that they're not guarded because of the questions that seems very interrogating. Because
yeah.
when you start being interrogated, anybody would put their walls up.
Oh, 100%. And again, learning how to create that safety, right? Not feeling interrogated, not putting the spotlight on them. This masterclass is going to help you guys with your relationship with other and with yourself.
Yourself, which is really important. That relationship with yourself is key in any relationship. So the good thing about everything else that we're going to be talking about that masterclass is really getting to know you and falling in love with you and creating the life that you want. And so when you're out there in the dating world, exactly who you are, what you're looking for, what you're wanting to create, and it's going to be amazing. I'm getting chills because it's gonna change the way that dating is going to be. That's just the whole energy. And as you guys know, I'm all about energy and all
Yeah.
about work and how we bring that in our daily lives and how that would transform us to just live life in a happier, easier way.
Exactly. No struggles, right? Just being yourself and what you can share, what you can give to another individual. That me too. I'm very excited about this. So I'm really looking forward to this masterclass. So thank you all
So
so
yeah,
much for being here with us today. And please do subscribe.
yes, and thank you so much for everybody's time. We really appreciate each and every one of you guys. Till next time, let's all shift together.